All right, sitting here with, man, I feel like we going back to the old days. My man, Mo Douglass. Mo, how you doing?
Great, doing great, Sam. Great to be talking to you, brother.
Yeah, it's good to be talking to you too, Mo. I've seen you put a lot of guys in college situations and into their professional life. You've been doing it for a long time. What makes you keep doing it, Mo?
Man, these babies, man, they need the opportunity, man, and it's something that God had just placed in my heart, man, and got a love for the kids and want to see them excel and get to whatever height they want to try to get to.
I got you. So let's talk about Aaron Scott, #1 corner in the country, maybe certainly the #1 prospect in Ohio. You coach him, break him down. What makes him special?
His attention to details. He's got great work habits. He's one of our top kids as far as whatever we ask him to do or whatever we tell him he needs to be doing, he does that. If we tell him that you need to work on your off man, if we tell him you need to go work on your character, he does whatever we have planned for him or what we seek for him to do. And he's just a great kid overall, man.
So break down his skill set. What does he do well on the field?
On the field, his press man is good. Got good feet, good hands, good hand placement. Got great eyes. Trying to keep him from looking in that backfield because when you got some talent, and you get a little nosy every now and then. But keep training his eyes. He does a great job of making sure he watches his opponent. Does a great job of film study. He pays attention to details as far as route combinations, locations on landmarks on the field, hand placement. Every week he asks for the #1 guy on the other team, and we give it to him. And for the most part, he's lived up to the bill each week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I know a lot of coaches don't like to do comparisons, but folks who haven't seen Aaron play, is there a player in college or pros that he might remind them of?
He would probably, I would say, a younger Jalen Ramsey. When Jalen was coming out, long guy, great limb, good in and out of his breaks, good ball placement skills where he puts his hands in the right spots to break up passes and things like that. But just a good athlete. I mean, he was a quarterback when he first came into high school. And after that season, he and I had a talk, and I was like, son, I know you want to play quarterback, but there ain't that many Lamar Jacksons out there. Your throwing days, your throwing mechanics aren't that great, but I said, but you can get paid if you come over here and play defense. And he thought about it, and then when he came, about a week later, he came up to me and said, I'm going to try it, coach. And 2 years, almost 3 years coming up, look where he's at now.
Look where he's at now, #1 in the country. So he listened to you on that. So I imagine he's going to listen to your counsel when he's going through the recruiting process, or is listening to your counsel. What are you stressing to him? What are you telling him to look for as he evaluates the schools?
Do your research. Look to see depending on what school it is, what degree you would like to go into, what field you would like to do after the game is over. Because even if you're blessed enough to go and play in the NFL 10, 12 years, you're still going to have another 40 to 50 years to live, good Lord willing. But just do your research. Don't go to a school because of the coaches, because that can change any day of the week. Go because of the opportunity that you're going to have in the school that you're selecting. Locations, sometimes location is good. Sometimes you want to be far away, sometimes you want to be closer away. Family distance, things were just things outside of the football aspect of it. It's bigger than that, because if you can't see yourself, say something was to happen to you on campus or you got hurt and playing the game, you couldn't play no more. Could you see yourself still going there getting your education? And so just things like that. But he's pretty well rounded, so he's doing his research and checking off the boxes on what they play defensively, what do they do, what players have they put in whatever positions that there are to be successful. And the coaches, like I said, the coach is going to change. It can change each and every week. But that has a small part to play in it, but not a large as part as we think.
Yeah, man. You definitely practice what you preach when you say you telling guys go wherever the best fit for you. It's not always like that. Ohio isn't the only place where if you're in a state You send guys to the state school. You send guys everywhere. And you've always sent guys everywhere. Where does that come from, Mo? Because there's a lot of pressure that tells you, hey man, guard your yard. Protect the borders. Don't let anyone in. Why have you never done that?
Because it's not about me, it's about the kids and what's best for them. I would love for them, if they could, I know people would love for them just to stay in Ohio and then that would be it, but it's a bigger world out there than this. And in the real world, you're gonna meet people from all over the place. And the thing is, my thing for that kid is to just put them in the best position to be successful. I don't care where it is. If that's going to school in Columbus, or if it's going to school in Ann Arbor, if it's going to school in Stanford, whatever. Just for them to whatever they can be the most successful at. I know people want to keep people around, but my thing is to make sure they get an opportunity at some level and whatever's best for them.
Well, here's what we know, though, for a good 10, 15 years, Mo. #1 player in the state of Ohio wasn't even looking Michigan's way. Like, it just was no contest. Yeah. Right? Now, it's a little bit different, right? Yeah. Now they're starting to look again, and these are some guys that up there. So let's start off with Jim Harbaugh, and what you know about Jim, your connection with Jim. What can you say about Jim Harbaugh?
Man, our connection goes back to us playing together with the Bears. I think we played together for 8 years, both of our first 8 years, and he's a good dude, man. He made helped develop some programs to take him to different heights. San Diego University, before he was there, nobody knew of him. Next thing you know, they got a quarterback that's in the NFL that's been playing now for
20 years.
Dang, never feels like that long.
Right.
Then he goes to Stanford, takes that program, and at the time he got it, they were getting beat by everybody. But then when he leaves, by the time he leaves, heck, they're battling for the Heisman Trophy winner, a Heisman Trophy kid, or a guy that's winner playing in the Rose Bowl. Then he goes to the 49ers, he goes to the Super Bowl. He takes that team to the Super Bowl. He comes home to Michigan. The roster wasn't as good as it is, and it needed to be at the time, but now he's got it to where it's at an elite level that can battle in Ohio State or Georgia or Florida or Alabama. Now he's recruiting on an elite level, and so now it makes it a whole lot easier for you to make them calls. And you got the running backs in the backfield, or you got the receivers or quarterbacks. So I'm just happy for Jim to be able to be in that position.
Yeah, it's also easier to go in Ohio when you got an Ohio guy doing it. Yeah. And so you go and get Clink.
You go get Clink.
And now Clink has come back around. So what can you say about Steve Clink's scale?
Man, Clink, I've been knowing Clink for like the last 21 years. I think my first job at Trotwood, he was at Ashland University. And so we go way back. Good man, got good character, man. Somebody, if you had a son, you would want him to learn under him. But, the game changes every week, so people may be here a minute or they be gone. But he's been a loyal dude from the times I've known him, man, like I said, for like the last 20 years. All the pit stops he's been at, he's done a great job with those kids, and I know he'll continue to do a great job where he's at now.
Yeah, and to keep it balanced, man, let's talk a little bit about the old state dudes, too.
Let's give it to them.
Let's talk about Coach Walton. What about Coach Walton?
Coach Walton is a good dude, man. I haven't known him as long as I have Coach Clink, but over the past 2 years now, gotten a chance to really get a chance to know him. I knew him when he was when he was coaching in the NFL, but not to the extent that we know now. Coach Walton is a good dude, man, and he got BIA. He said he got them boys, they coming back. He said he's gonna have his guys all healthy this year, and they're gonna see a different Buckeye back in. But he's a good dude, man, and a great mentor to a bunch of those guys up there. I've seen some of the good work he's doing with the DBs in his room, and the kids love him.
Yeah, and then Coach Day.
Coach Day, I rocks with Coach Day. At first, I liked Ohio State, don't get me wrong. I liked Ohio State, but I think that game against Georgia, it took my respect and my openness towards Coach Day to another level because I saw the passion that he coached with that day, and I saw the effort that his players played with. And it took me Put me in another level now. I'm right there with you, Coach Day. I told you when you came up in here that I rocks with you now. And he's done what he said he was going to do. He said he was going to take care of the house, and he's taking care of Ohio.
All right, so let's look ahead to the season, Mo. I mean, look, it seems like every year you got a bullseye on your back, man, wherever you are. So give me an outlook for this season, and then what does the year look like for Aaron? Because it sounds like he wants to get his recruitment out of the way before the season starts.
Well, let's start with Aaron. Well, we got Aaron. He's going to try to get it over with by July. He's going to do his officials in June or the end of this month of June, and try to make his decision sometime in July, which will make it that easier for him to focus on just playing football, because he's going to be expected to be a big part of that, the back end and our whole team as a whole. But we have a good group coming back. We returned 5 offensive linemen. We got 2 to 3 defensive linemen coming back, but we got a good group. Probably, I want to say we probably have 7 or 8 starters returning on each side. Quarterback's going to be a younger guy, but he's been with us for 2 years. But it's wide open. We're going to have quarterback. We got competition everywhere. Quarterback competition going to be there too. But whoever that guy is that leads this team, he's going to have some pieces to play with, and our coaching staff will get him in the right position to be able to be successful. Defensively, we got a good back end.
All right, Mo, last one for you. You told me what you were stressing to Aaron to look for. But this is a different question. When he gets ready to make his decision, what do you think it's going to come down to? What do you think when he is comparing and contrasting is going to make the decision be one school versus all the rest?
You know what, man? I think it's going to be what they do defensively for a large part, I think, because he wants to play a certain brand of ball. He's trying to play on Sundays. Good Lord willing, he'll stay healthy for the next 3 to 4 years, get his shot. And whatever guy can mentor him in that area and get him to get to the best of ability that he can be at the next elite level for him to make it there, that's going to be the choice that he's going to probably end up making. But all those guys who are recruiting him have got guys in the NFL. You know what I mean? And I think it's just going to be the comfortability of his family and what they believe and what they think about that particular staff or school that's going to sway him in that direction. But whatever choice he makes, man, I'm rooting for him regardless. You know, like I tell him, wherever you go, you like it, I love it. And so I'm going to be with you either way. If it's in Columbus, if it's in Tennessee, if it's in California, don't matter. You know, I'm rocking with you either way.
Got you. Mo Doug, man, it's like old times.
We back at it, Sam. I am.
All right, appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, so fellas, you just heard him talk about how much respect, how high a regard he has for Jim Harbaugh. He's my teammate for 8 seasons. We came in together all those years, and then he goes over his resume from San Diego to he said he turned San Diego around. He turned Stanford around. Then he goes to the 49ers and he wins the Super Bowl. Now he turns Michigan. He knows the resume, right? So why is that important? And he knows Clink, right? Why is that important? Because when you are recruiting in enemy territory, and you guys know this, covering recruiting for a long time, a lot of times the environment around them, whether it's people in the school, coaches, people in the community, there's negative recruiting that you got to chop through. They're telling kids everything under the moon to downplay, in this case, Michigan, and you got to cut through that. Well, having Mo there doesn't push him to Michigan. He's not pushing the kid to Michigan. But what it does do, Steve, is it kind of filters out some of that negative talk that you might otherwise have to overcome. You got a guy in the school that'll make say, you know what, Ohio State's a great school, kid, but Michigan's a great school too. That's what balances the equation a little bit for them.
I got to think that scenario of like coaches, classmates, community, it's got to be worse in Ohio for Michigan than maybe any program has to deal with in any state, right? I mean, it's got to be way up at the top of the list. I mean, I feel like, I don't know if it was Nolan Rumler, there was somebody from Ohio that committed to Michigan, and I remember that they said that they would have committed to Michigan earlier in the process if they knew they would have avoided the harassment, like just the basically harassment that they would have gotten for committing to Michigan earlier. So, I got to think eliminating that part of it, or at least down or lessening it is going to just help Michigan naturally. But Aaron Scott could really be a 5-star prospect. Honestly, he's rightfully ranked as the top prospect in Ohio, and really, it's been fascinating. I don't know if we had discussed this or not, but Michigan recruiting both Aaron Scott and Bryce West. Bryce West, another 4-star corner out of Glenville in Cleveland. Earlier in the process, it kind of felt like Michigan looked good, or looked like they were really in decent shape with Bryce West, and maybe not so much with Aaron Scott, or at least we didn't hear as much about Aaron Scott. That's been a complete 180 since then, I feel like. I mean, it does feel like Michigan has a much, much better chance of landing Aaron Scott than they do Bryce West. And, I think Michigan would be getting the better prospect of the two on the surface if that was to happen. So, but yeah, Zach Harrison, I was even trying to think of what the last time before that probably would have been around when Hoke got hired, right? The last time Michigan was battling Ohio State for the top player in Ohio.
Was Kalis the number one player?
That's what Kyle Kalis is who I thought of. I'm pretty sure that he was 1 or 2 in Ohio for sure. And that was what the 2012 class, I believe. So, I mean, not something that's happened very often in the last 15 years or so when you consider how big of rivals the two programs are, And so Ohio State got Zach Harrison. This one it feels similar in that it's a close race. But the difference is Michigan's got 2 wins in their back pocket.
Right.
Steve Clinkscale is one of the best developers of defensive backs in the country and has a laundry list of players to back it up. And, just the landscape is a little bit different right now in Michigan's favor than it would have been in the Zach Harrison recruitment.
I'll never forget hearing from one of the guys behind the scenes about Zach Harrison. He said, "Man, I can't go to Michigan and lose." He went to Ohio State and lost to Michigan, but still, he was like, "I can't go there and lose." Well, Aaron didn't have to worry about that if he were to pick Michigan. Michigan's already beat him, and he was on hand for the beatdown in Columbus, and that had an impact. I mean, you'll see. So we'll have an interview up with Aaron this week. I sat down with him for a lengthy chat, and then talked to him for even longer after that. But he said on the record, he said, "Yeah, that left a mark." Now, don't get ahead of yourself. Ohio State is right there. They are tugging at his heartstrings. I think Ohio State had been leading up to Michigan having him on campus for that spring practice visit. So I think this is going to be a tug of war. This is going to be a tussle here down the stretch. And he's going to make his decision after his officials. He wants to get it done in July. He said something interesting to me. He said, "Man, I wish it was the first game of the season, Michigan, Ohio State. Because if it was the first game of the season, I'd wait. I'd wait to watch it." Right? And what that says to me, it really highlights how much he questions their defensive scheme at Ohio State. Right? Because, I went into this in a piece. If you didn't see my breakdown, sort of handicap in the leaderboard, check it out over on the MichiganInsider.com. But, the chance to really see, are they better? Right? He be doing it on blind faith in July. This is why I also say don't discount Ohio State. They're telling them we're better. They're telling them we're going to be all right in the secondary. He's got to kind of take their word for it right now. So when he said, I wish it were the first game of the season, that would allow him to see if they really have made those improvements. Michigan has to fill that void of uncertainty about Ohio State and hammer it. You talk about recruiting strategy. They got to make that uncertainty be pronounced because they have an advantage there. The question is, Brice, will they be able to exploit it enough to bring this one home? He gives me Will Johnson vibes as a player. Same length and physicality and ball skills. This dude was a quarterback so his IQ, you see that over on defense as well. A lot to like about Aaron Scott.
Yeah, and this is a recruitment that Michigan's been working on for a long time. They got him up to campus back in the winter, and then they followed up, for the spring. But I think what was crucial about that is the weekend he came up, Sam. If you recall, that was the same weekend that Jordan Marshall, Jane Davis, Brady Prescorn, Blake Frazier. What happened with all those guys, Sam? My memory's a little foggy. I don't know if they took a picture. I don't know what happened, but something happened that weekend that I guess now is resonating with recruiting fans. But that being said, if Michigan were, I guess, to use and show them why Michigan would be the pick, I would say, just look at recency, but look at Dax Hill, right? Look at DJ Turner. They are sending guys to the league compared to some of his other shooters, maybe in Ohio State. I haven't seen too many draft picks from their secondary recently. And on top of that, Michigan can show, like you said, Sam, Will Johnson, a guy who was a freshman, developed from game one to the Purdue game, where he's a star. Now he's looked at as a future All-American. I mean, this is substantial stuff and evidence you can show to support your claim of why you should pick Michigan. I think and that's why he's considering that. And I think that's why I made that comment to you, Sam, of, man, I really want to watch that game to see what it's going to look like, because it's so much you can hear and so much you can say.
Well, when I said Brice said I was talking about Brice. Did I say you wanted to see the game first? I can't remember. I meant Aaron wanted to see that game first.
Right. No. And that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because I think that's interesting that he made that comment, because I think, Ohio State probably is saying, we have definitely improved, all this stuff, but you don't know. That's just talk. You know what I mean? Whereas Michigan can show DJ Turner get drafted, Dax Hill get drafted, Will Johnson, 5-star, but he's living up to the hype. Right. So they're having stuff to where substantial evidence they can show him. And, unfortunately, of course, he's in Ohio. And obviously how Ohio is, and Steve said, it's the toughest state for Michigan, obviously, to recruit in. But they are making inroads. They're making hay. And the coach, I think that's a big factor, too, that he's leaving the door wide open for any school. This is not just a Michigan thing. This is Eastern, this is Akron, any school that comes in. He's not going to let anyone begrudge another school. He's going to have all his kids have open mind and open vision and look at every suitor. So they have a great shot, though. I really think they have a great shot. I wouldn't say they lead, but I think it's between Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon, if I were to call it today.
Yeah, I'd say they lead. That's my opinion. Now, can they hold on to it is the question, because look, Ohio State's tugging at the heartstrings. He knows he'd be a hero. But you turn down Michigan when Michigan was good. See, it's easy for these other dudes to turn Michigan down. I mean, you're gonna go there and get blown out by Ohio State. But now Ohio State's getting blown out. So you're literally a hero for turning them down, staying home as the number one player in the state. He has Buckeyes in his family. He talked about how huge a fan of the Buckeyes his dad is. Like, when he got the Buckeye offer, dad was like, let's go. Let's go. Let's jump on the board. And he didn't do it. So what it tells you is that he, at least in part, is thinking about this as a business decision. Can you make that be his biggest focus? To me, is the question for Michigan down the stretch. So again, if you didn't read the entire breakdown, instead of handicapping the race, it lays it all out. Of course, be on the lookout. We're going to have, the entire interview laid out. And I talked to him about Ohio State a ton. So I didn't come at him asking him a million questions just about Michigan. We dug into the Buckeyes. We talked about Oregon a lot as well. So you get a view of what he thinks about these other schools. And, you also get the view that this is going to be a battle. Where it stands now does not necessarily portend where it's going to finish. This one could jostle back and forth 20 times before he comes up with the decision. We'll be right there to cover with you every step of the way. Now, Steve, to one of the points you made, interesting how this seems to be the inverse of what happened or what's happening with Brice West, because they were seemingly trending up with Brice West, and then they had both of those guys on campus, very clear. And you heard Mo talk about Ryan Day said hey, I'm going to prioritize the state right now because Michigan has him they got him backpedaling a little bit. And so he is putting forth more energy, more effort, more intensity with the guys in state. And it feels like, at least to me, that's resonating with all the guys, but it's resonating with Brice West a lot. At least that's what they say, because I agree. I think Ohio State's out front for Brice West at this point.
Glenville, right? I mean, has Michigan ever got, like, they signed Willie Henry, they got Frank Clark. I don't know if Ohio State really pursued those guys very heavily, right? So Michigan has always struck out with guys that Ohio State wants out of Glenville, right? And we know they want Brice West. It feels like they want the other Demarion Witten too, the tight end.
Yeah, you know what? I think the last guy, and I have to ask him this, I think the last guy from Glenville that they got that Ohio State wanted was Pierre Woods.
Oh, geez, that was before my recruiting coverage time, but I remember Pierre Woods very well. Yeah,
I was just messaging with Pierre this week, so I'm gonna ask him. I say, man, remind me of that story. Where was Ohio State in your recruitment? But I'm pretty sure that Pierre was the last guy.
I was gonna say he was ranked pretty highly too. I mean, you have to think that Ohio State was at least interested in him, but either way, it is a school where it feels like when Ohio State puts their foot down, they're very difficult to beat. So, I think if you're a Michigan fan, I think you're ecstatic if you get one of the two guys. As I said, I think Aaron Scott would be the preferred prospect, but both are very, very, very good. So yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, Michigan absolutely has. Ohio State's kind of been able to take the state for granted for a really long time because they dominated the rivalry for so long. We talked before about how many guys they could just come in at the last minute and offer, and take a verbal from, guys that maybe liked Michigan or liked Michigan State or liked Notre Dame, and now, Michigan's at one school right now that can go in and pitch and make a difference. And it looks like that it has, and Ohio's strong in 2024. And there's some really good prospects in 2025 too, in Ohio that Michigan is already making a run at as well. So yeah, a little bit different than it has been for the last 10 or so years or even longer for Michigan and Ohio. Outside of that one stretch with Hoke, the new car smell with Brady Hoke when they got all those kids in the 12 and 13 class. But, otherwise it's mostly been Buckeyes.
Yeah. As Mo said to me, not necessarily in that interview, but he said, hey, the boys are back in town. The boys, talking about Michigan, are back in town.